is Primus Tracks with Josh, Frankie, and Sawyer.
What a couple of dumb shits. Hello, Primates! You found Primus Tracks. Congratulations! I am Josh. Up there from his perch in Primus Tracks Towers is Frankie.
Hi, Josh.
We have ourselves a special guest today. Actually, we have two. One of them's in the bathroom. So I'll bring in the guy who's actually here right now. But I'm going to preface it with this. And Frankie, maybe you can answer these questions too. Have you ever wanted to know what it's like to make a movie with, I don't know, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, or Les Claypool for that matter?
I imagine it must be something absolutely mind-blowing.
Maybe you haven't, but our guest has. First of all, Tim Soya's here. What's up, Soya? Welcome back.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Here we go.
You got on here tonight.
The man that can help us with these questions and more is Jason McHugh. Welcome to Primus Tracks.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for coming on. Soya, he's pretty excited to see you, too. I'm thinking we can go in somewhat chronological order, but that's how I like to start, and then usually what happens in these kinds of things is we bounce around like crazy. That's when the real fun begins. Jason, actually, I'm not sure where you're originally from.
I grew up in Mill Valley.
Milf Valley.
Milf Valley, Marin County.
Essentially born and raised in California?
Bay Area. That's went to high school there and went to University of Colorado for college.
Okay.
And then eventually made my way out to Los Angeles, California, where I'm talking to you now.
In Marin, or in the Bay Area there, were you hooked into the music scene like Soya was?
I kind of grew up loving heavy metal, like when I was like third through seventh grade. And then I had like a brief sort of rock of the 80s phase when I was kind of interested in girls for the first time. And, that's back in the 80s we're talking about, right? And then I took a big left turn when I went to my first Grateful Dead concert, like late 1984 at Berkeley Community Theater. And then I just went into a major Grateful Dead phase and basically just, followed the Dead, stopped listening to everything else, maybe a little Bob Marley, maybe a little bit of your boy Roger Waters tucked in there. But I'd already done like all the big metal bands and Pink Floyd. I already knew about them, so I was already hooked into them. But I was going to like Laserium. Pink Floyd Laserium was definitely happening. So I was in that. But then I just started going to tons of Dead shows, and I would empty my pockets of all my money after the shows, buying stickers and shirts and whatnot. And then after about a year of doing that, I decided I was going to start selling my own T-shirts at Grateful Dead concerts. And that was like basically my first business. And that went really well, actually. That was just like great fun. And we'd go to shows and make tons of cash and see the Dead and trip balls and have a great time and go on lots of adventures all over California. And then, I made it to some other tours. And then going to Colorado, I got to go to Red Rock shows and do a tour there and hit Alpine Valley and, hit some places. Jumped in the Dead. So I was not connected to the Marin music scene at all, really until after college. Like I got to college, this dates me, but basically like Lollapalooza was the thing that sort of snapped me out of being like just like listening only to the Grateful Dead. So yeah. It was bands like basically Primus and Jane's Addiction and Chili Peppers and P-Funk and then all the new hip hop bands and then all the new grunge bands kicking in. Those are the things that were like, okay, I can listen to new music again. And that's hit the first three Lollapaloozas. Oh, wow. And then when Primus was coming to Colorado, I hit every one of their shows, like at Boulder Theater and
the Mammoth Event Center.
Yeah, they played on campus. Mammoth, they have like Denver shows. So I just kind of was like into all the grunge rock, and that's when I was still moshing. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
I'll jump in here, even though I'm not part of Jason's moment then, but it's important to know that Primus was a really important springboard of a lot of Deadheads jumping out of that immersion of the Dead, where that's all there was. Like that you said that, Jason, is very important, that Les jumped into that realm, even though he didn't realize a lot of people were like happy for it, like,
oh yeah.
I have a lot of Deadhead friends that were like, had no fucking idea what was going on in music outside the Dead world, and band like you said, like Lollapalooza came along, but Primus is one of those bands that people go, dude, I heard Primus, and I was like, oh, they're that.
Yeah.
I'm saying the way Les plays, and it wasn't that kind of music, but it grabbed a lot of that crowd, you know.
Yeah, it was psychedelic, but it was completely different, you know, and definitely not for everybody, you know. Some deadheads would go running, you know, but other ones, you know, like myself, would flock to it and jump in the mosh pit and
totally,
you know, do all that stuff, and it was so fun, you know.
Do you think that was a generational thing? So, because you were college age, probably, right? Late teens, early 20s at that time, Jason.
Exactly.
To hear Primus and go, oh, that sounds great. And I'm thinking of some of those older deadheads who might either take a passing interest in other music or just say, "No, I got my little box here." The Dead, you know. Because it does seem like as we get older, we definitely narrow our musical. Most people, I think, kind of narrow their vision when it comes to music, especially.
That's the sad truth for sure. I mean, and I can say I've always considered myself a festival whore, a little bit less lately, but you know, back in the day, every time I see a festival listed, I'm reading every band listed from top to bottom, from the big names all the way to the small names. And I used to know every one of them, all even in the fine print. But now, oh man, it's like,
dude, I don't even know the headliners anymore.
Yeah, it's like, oh fuck,
I'm getting old.
That happened, man. That just happened. I'm sorry, I'm getting attacked by a mosquito. If anyone's wondering what it's but yeah, so you know, you can say it's not going to happen to you, but it's probably going to happen, and you know, it did happen to me.
Yeah, so. I'm already getting there myself, and I'm just over 40, you know. But then I look at one of those old Lollapalooza '93 lineups, and I go, I know every single one of these bands, and they all got massive, with only a few exceptions. So it's definitely one of those things when you're hooked in and really into it. A lot of people just soak it all up, and I was like that for years, and then I kind of stopped paying attention because I stayed in my box for quite some time. So, you know, one of these days I'll check out Tame Impala and I'll let you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised I haven't seen Tame Impala yet, because like they're ones that I should see. They're sort of on my cusp there. But you know, like a telling thing for me was that like Bonnaroo sold, like the owners of Bonnaroo sold with somebody else.
Oh.
And that means, you know, they just realized they were getting too old and they stopped giving a shit about the new music scene, and it wasn't interesting for them anymore. So they just sold the farm and moved on. At least that's my theory. I haven't talked to anyone who's an actual.
That's the best theory that anybody needs to hear, because that's really what a festival is all about, is what's going on.
Yeah.
Not about what can make the most money. It's about what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
Musically, and what's hip and happening, or what do you need to be exposed to that is not hip and happening yet? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's what festivals are always great for. You get yourself caught up in some crowd in some side stage seeing one band, and you end up getting stuck there for 3 other bands. You go, holy fuck.
Right. That's like a promoter.
These guys, you know?
Yeah. No, that's like a good promoter who knows what the music scene is and knows the up and comers and knows who he needs to get people to come out, and you know, and that's a true art form. So. Yep. And one I'm now too old for. Darn it!
You phased yourself out. Yeah,
it's good to have seasoning that's all crusted over and not just be like raw meat, you know, unbarbecued.
Yeah, everybody loves that crispy exterior, so don't sell yourself short there, Jason.
That's me and you both, Jay.
All right, well, maybe that's our festival. We'll do the crispy exterior festival.
Yeah. There's some goodness down in there if you can get away with all that crust. Just from what we learned, man.
Old Crusty Fest. That's what we'll do.
Get Tame Impala to headline. I'll show up.
All right.
I'd love to see them.
All right, we might be onto something. I mean, look, it worked for Old Cella. So
yeah.
So it's good to know your kind of musical background or what you were into when, for me, because it just kind of sets that stage, because you'd make it to Colorado to go to college, and you've opened up your musical world as well. Is that around the time you meet Matt and Trey, or how does that happen?
Yeah, you know, I mean, more or less over the years, there's some overlap there, but you know, yeah, I just became a film major at CU Boulder. Really, was the story, and that's the music I was checking out. Was like seeing going flossing from the dead to Primus basically, and having a great time in Boulder, and became a film major. We knew I wanted to do something creative, and the more film classes I took, the more it interested me. And I'll never forget, our teacher saying, look around the room, but there's going to be some people in here who you might end up working with, and they're going to become your long friends and all this stuff. And you just look around the room and you're like, oh, no way. No, I don't think so. But in that room is Matt Stone, and then Trey. Trey worked behind the cage. We had like a rental cage, and the CU Film School, it's like the number one, like least financed department in the entire school, right? It's just like it's the bottom of the barrel. And we're right across the street from the football team, who's like, when I'm there, they won the Orange Bowl, and we're just like, just God's gift. And they were like the most financed entity. And we have these like shitty cameras and all this shitty equipment. But that kind of stuff is sort of like what you bond over. Yeah. And then the way that CU sort of sets their film classes up is that everybody crews for everybody else. So, I might be running sound on Matt's movie, or Trey's acting in my movie, and we're all just kind of playing different roles, trying different things out. And so it's just really fertile creative grounds. And then you kind of gyrate towards people who you get along with and you have similar sensibilities, so we were all guys interested in more comedy or weird stuff, and I don't know. So just different little groups kind of form. And so that's kind of, where I met Trey and Matt, just making shorts at CU Boulder. And then, one day Trey comes and's like, well, I want to do a feature film about Alfred Packer. And we're all just kind of like, okay, we're on board. Sounds great. Sounds great. And I don't know, Alfred, I didn't know who Alfred Packer was. I was from California. We were educated about the Donner Party as the most famous cannibalistic historical figures, and so but at CU Boulder, Alfred Packer is a famous cannibal from the 1800s, and he's hugely celebrated. They have the Alfred Packer Grill. They used to have Alfred Packer Day with meat eating contests and lookalike contests, and they'd serve 3-2 beer like that. Going to CU Boulder, one of the bonuses was that you could get beer that was like 2.2 alcohols. That's instead of like the normal show. And they were just grandfathering that out. But all of a sudden you're like, I go to Boulder and it's 18 and it's legal to drink beer. So we took advantage of those rules. That's what was
steak, beer, whatever.
Yeah. But anyway, like Primus, I think Matt, one of first Primus show was at Alfred Packer Day. Primus played Alfred Packer Day as like the house band, apparently. So I missed that, but
I missed that too. I wasn't there.
Wow.
That was probably pre-crew for them. They were probably carrying their own shit. Right?
I might have been the one that Les said they trained in on. No, that was a Jane's Addiction show.
Yeah. It was probably right around that time. But anyway.
What year was that, do you remember? That would put me somewhere.
I think
89.
Yeah, it would have been like 89 or 90, something like that.
That sounds right.
I wasn't there then.
Yeah, probably 89 is a good guess because I missed it too, and I wasn't there in 89 either.
I was there with them at that moment, but I was doing my own band at the time.
Yeah, I did a year off Colorado, and I think that's when that happened.
Man, that's amazing that Primus played that. Go on with your story, please. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, that's just sort of like I guess I was just getting to the roots of starting Cannibal the Musical.
Yeah.
Which, again, it was Trey had this kind of wacky idea. And we were basically going to, raise $10,000 and shoot it in his backyard. And then I remember then we were going to do it over Christmas vacation, but it didn't snow and we just kind of didn't have our shit together really. But then we were like, okay, we can't do it now, but we're going to try to get to it. And then Trey was engaged in college to his high school sweetheart. Okay. And her name was Leanne. And he basically, long story short, he walked in on her with another man about 2 months before their big wedding date. And I think they were getting married like somewhere fancy, and it was a big deal. And basically Trey was just crushed. He was just like, at that moment, just became the shattered romantic. He couldn't like eat or sleep for like a few days. He like lost all this weight. He looked super pale. He just looked like a man beaten, basically. He came back a few weeks later. I think I went on a trip. I came back, and he was like, he's like, you know what? We're shooting Cannibal. Well, it wasn't called Cannibal. It was called Alfred Packer. We're shooting Alfred Packer. I recorded some songs, and we got to do this, and I'm getting a team together. Can you make it for this weekend? We're going to do this. And he was just all of a sudden super fired up.
Wow.
And basically, so we got a team together. Again, everyone acted and wore different hats, crewing and just making it happen. And ended up, shooting in the day and just having like fun, drunken campfires at night. That was sort of like the vibe of our shoots. And he had recorded these songs and he'd written these scenes, and basically everything about it was a joke about Leanne. And he was basically just trying to like, just sort of like, it was this cathartic thing. And there was like, that's when he wrote the song When I Was on Top of You.
Yeah.
And there was a few other Leanne jokes, and it was just basically like he'd written this 5-minute trailer for this whole movie, but he made it all about Leanne jokes. And that was like what was driving him at the time. Yeah. And so he cut it. So we shot it, and then like a month later, it was over some summer break. So we all left and came back, and then all of a sudden he had this 5-minute trailer for Alfred Packer the Musical that was super funny and action packed, and it just kind of had the moments, and you just would see it and you'd be like, when's the movie coming out? And of course at that point there was no movie except this little weekend shoot. And but that trailer with all the Leanne jokes, it was what sort of led to the financing. We basically took that trailer, would show it to different friends and family, and they'd say, when's the movie coming out? And we'd be like, hey, can you give us $2,500?
Yeah.
That was a minimum investment to get in. And so we collected lots of small investments, and then a couple of like ones for 20,000 and then one for 50. But before that, mostly just $2,500 investments from friends and family and grandmas and, uncles and cousins.
Wow. So this was a truly homegrown effort. I mean, but beyond a bunch of guys screwing around in film class, this then became something that people had a stake in, so you had to do it. Yeah, no,
shit got real, know. I mean, and we did in film school they teach you how to make a movie, but they don't teach you about the business of making a movie. Right. About what it takes to produce and do all the things to make it. So we would read all these other filmmaker books, like the guys like Evil Dead guys wrote a book. Steven Soderbergh had just done Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and he had a book. And so we just read any indie filmmaker book we could get our hands on. We would read it, and then we would go to Red Robin because they had bottomless fries and drinks. We would just camp out there all afternoon and just basically kind of give ourselves an education about producing. And then we'd get a lot of free legal consultations, because you could every lawyer will give you like one consultation for free. So we did that until we kind of figured out that we needed an LLC, and then we got an LLC and, a bank account, and just did all the things to get legit, and start making it. And basically from there, we would be, on some days we would be an indie professional film, and other days we'd be a student film, depending on which hat kind of gave us more leverage for a certain situation, So a lot of times you can get things for free as a student film. So we would just milk that whenever possible. And we were a student film because I had just graduated, but Trey, he had to stay in school because his parents wouldn't give him any kind of like living expense money if he wasn't in school. So he stayed enrolled in all of his classes, but he was like acting, writing a musical, directing, doing some producing, he's just doing all these things. And then all these students were getting school credit. They were getting intern credit for working on the movie. But he ended up getting kicked out of school because he got all like failing grades that semester. So that was just one of the big ironies. One of the many ironies of making that movie. Wow. Yeah, Trey got kicked out. I think they've given him an honorary degree since, but not sure.
Right. So. Well, and then of course recently he got his own day. So, it could pay off after a time.
Oh yeah. Oh, in Colorado, right? Yeah, right.
Right.
They proclaim the South Park Day, right?
That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
on the 10th
okay.
of August.
I think he's okay without a degree.
I think he did all right. Yeah. Some guys do. Wow. So that thing came out, and man, I remember seeing it in about maybe 2003, at least a part of it, and because by 3, South Park is massive, unstoppable, and I'm college age, so I'm watching it fairly regularly, and it was one of the wildest things I'd seen, and I just thought it was hilarious, And Frankie, I think you're a fan of Cannibal, right?
Yes.
Frankie's watching Let's
I'm
Dance
huge on South Park.
Video official on MTV right now.
So, gosh, that's really cool. So we can go over this part briefly. Are you guys shopping it around once it's finished?
I should be plugging my book for this point right
yes,
here.
Yes, please.
Spodoinkle, The Making of Cannibal, the musical, which, I don't even, it actually is available on Amazon. I just redid that for the 25th anniversary, but I mean, for like a year and a half. Okay. We did some serious shopping, and this is like shopping while couch surfing as like 3 dudes coming from Colorado, just like couch surfing in LA at like, we crashed Sundance, and that's a whole other story, but we crashed Sundance before Slam Dance was a thing. And that really gave us a lot of connections when we eventually did roll into Los Angeles to continue our couch surfing tour. And we basically, Troma reached out to us right away saying, we love this movie.
Oh yeah.
We want to take it. And they offered us this deal that we just gotten a new entertainment attorney that we met at Sundance. And that entertainment attorney said he would rather poke needles in his eyes than take the deal that Troma had offered. And so we shopped from there, and we took meetings with like everyone, we did like, we set up screenings in Los Angeles. We did fax campaigns where we would fax thousands of people to come to our screenings. So we really worked our ass off to get to shop the movie and to try to find distributors. And where everybody was really nice and interested in our next project, nobody wanted to touch Cannibal with a 10-foot pole. We were like, but why? It's like a courtroom drama and a Western and a love story and a musical. Yeah. And like, what genre is it not? But that of course was a little advanced or too culty. But yeah, nobody wanted it. So after we basically landed a deal to do a new thing that was basically like Cannibal the Musical of the Week, this show called Time Warped, which we did as a couple pilots for Fox that never got picked up, but it was basically like Cannibal the Musical of the Week. Anyway, so when that was hitting, or we were going into production, we were like, we got to at least get this movie out, because now we're moving on to the next project and we can't leave our investors behind, and this movie needs to get out. So we went back to Troma and did take that horrible, despicable deal that our entertainment attorney didn't want us to take. Yeah.
Troma being, because Troma is, sorry to interrupt, Troma is notoriously penny pinching and doing everything super cheap. And
yeah, well, like when you think about like getting wined and dined, like in Hollywood, just picture Lloyd Kaufman taking Trey, Matt, and I out to Del Taco for lunch. And that's literally what we did. We went and had like, Del Taco fucking tacos and burritos and talked about Cannibal, and Lloyd was great, and I mean, yeah, he's like, we're cheap and we're low budget, and that's what's up. And so, but it actually turned out to be a great deal, because Troma is still around. Yeah. They actually are actually a more honest distributor than most distributors you're ever going to find. They actually do pay royalties, and they're actually still in business. So they actually were great to work with despite everything. So that's who has Cannibal out. And then they eventually let us, or I started a secondary company called New Cannibal Society, which took the rights for the stage play and the merchandise and the music. And so we licensed that as a stage musical separately, and we've been doing that for, I don't know, well, we haven't done much obviously during COVID, but for the 20 years prior to COVID, we have executive produced hundreds of versions of Cannibal on stage. some real small, tiny productions, lots of school productions, and a few pretty fancy productions too. With the most fancy and biggest being in Toronto back in 2015, where we did like we did actually let people do some new music. Guys who had done Evil Dead the musical did this incredible adaptation of it. So I'm hoping to keep that rolling at some point. We'll see how that goes, but
so Cannibals had an extended life.
Yeah, and what's incredible is like, it's just a true cult movie, where it's just like it's got so many weird imperfections that people like to laugh at that sort of add to the charm. Sure. And then just because South Park has continued so robustly over the years, it's generating new fans every year. And so whenever there's a new fan and they start discovering all the material that Trey and Matt have done, and they get to Cannibal, it's like a thrilling gem that you find at the bottom of the trunk, so but then for hardcore people, like who want to actually get into theater or film, it's been a great first piece for young directors to cut their teeth on.
Cannibal might replace Eisenstein in your film theory classes, right?
I mean, like, who knows? Yeah, South Park's there have been college classes dedicated to South Park and incredible philosophy books even as well. So
speaking of South Park, that takes off. My gosh, those guys had been working on that for a while. Were you involved at all with getting that off the ground?
Yeah, I had a very kind of funny role. Well, because I also produced the movie Orgasmo.
Right.
And basically, and we were also doing Time Warped same time, and basically, so it's South Park kind of like popped up as almost like an afterthought, weirdly, like as far as like the way that the pilot was concerned, because this guy Brian Graydon from Fox Television, who would greenlit our Time Warp shows. Time Warp was, again, it was like a Cannibal the Musical of the Week, focusing on an odd character throughout time. The first one was Aaron, who's Moses's better looking, more outspoken brother, jealous of Moses, who's kind of adult. It's about a sibling rivalry happening while they're freeing the Egyptian slaves during this biblical story.
Yeah.
So we did that one. And then that one, they said there's going to be 6 episodes. We were thrilled. We couldn't believe it. Then it was going to be 4 episodes. And then it turned into being another pilot for Fox Kids, where we then did a story called Ram and Jewel, which was Romeo and Juliet set in 1 billion BC Africa. And that was a very challenging production, and challenging time in general. And then that show did not get picked up because Fox Kids was the #1 network. Okay. So then at the time, Trey and Matt, but Trey especially, was just super broke, and he loves Christmas, and he's like, I'm not gonna have enough money for Christmas presents. What can we do? And Brian, that's when he financed the Spirit of Christmas cartoon, right? That was the 5-minute short that led to the longer South Park.
Right.
So that kind of like, so that happened. And then that led to the production of South Park, the pilot, which I worked on as a production coordinator. But meanwhile, I was working as a producer on Orgasmo, and we were just getting financing for Orgasmo sort of at the same time. So after kind of like getting no love and nothing happening, all of a sudden everything was like hitting, so we were starting to South Park while we were also shooting the trailer or the fake trailer for Orgasmo. So it was kind of a wild time between like boring animation and really outrageous and weird porn shoots that we were like jumping on. So and meanwhile, we were also inviting Mormons over to our house because we were researching the Mormon stuff for Orgasmo, which of course, also probably led to Mormon musical.
Right.
So it just made my job super interesting and weird. But also, again, I was cutting out because we were doing that on real construction paper. So
right.
As a production coordinator, coordinating construction paper and scissors, I cut out like hundreds of Cartmans and Kennys and Kyles and Stans, and the trees are really hard to cut out with an X-Acto knife. And
oh man,
and it's all super boring.
Yeah.
So that's why porn shoots are totally not boring, especially
relative to cutting out construction paper for sure.
So yeah, so we'd be cutting out construction paper, and then that was during the time when we organized probably a highlight of all of our lives, which was shooting porn with Carrie Fisher, and Buck Henry and who was it? Richard Dreyfuss and Timothy Hutton, basically. And it was all in the research portion for Orgasmo. So that was what was up. And we were just kind of like, we were pranking Hollywood with porn shoots. That was basically what was going on. And Trey pretended to be the porn director of this one shoot, and the porn director, our friend Farrell Timlake, who kind of was showing us all the ropes for Orgasmo, he had his porn company called Homegrown Video. So they kind of traded places, and just as a ruse to kind of fool Carrie Fisher and all these people. And it completely worked out. And like they thought Trey was Farrell and Farrell was Trey. And then when Farrell jumped in the scene and started having sex with one of these porn stars, they were all properly shocked. And then got out to the new William Morris agencies, and it just caused this mini little scandal as intended. And I don't know. So we were just kind of like up to like a lot of shenanigans, while trying to make the South Park pilot. Because again, it's super boring. Trey and Matt would just isolate in a room once they had all the cutouts, and just you'd move one mouth at a time and one thing, and we were shooting it on film. And then you have to get it processed, and you'd wait to see it come back and see if it was any good.
Yeah,
and it wasn't always good, so you have to redo stuff all the time. Yeah. So the other thing we were doing is a lot of Duke Nukem.
Playing a lot of Duke Nukem, yeah.
Yeah, we were playing in network computers. We'd play Duke Nukem and just be blowing the crap out of each other. So
that's good stress relief.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. So that's basically that's sort of the story of the making of the South Park pilot.
Yeah, for sure.
All the time we were doing, Cartman gets an anal probe, but that was just the background, just cutting out construction paper.
I was unaware that it was contemporary to the making of Orgasmo, so that's new for me.
It was all kind of it was all right on top of each other. So so we finished. Actually, I kind of left the production of South Park early to start pre-production for Orgasmo, because this was the thing is that once we knew that we kind of all felt like there was momentum and that South Park was going to get picked up for a series. I mean, no one knew it was going to last for 20 plus years, but sure. But we thought maybe we'd get a couple seasons out of it or something at the time. And so, but we also knew that we needed to get Orgasmo done before South Park got the green light. So it was really important to get into pre-production, cast everybody, start filming, and basically halfway through the production of Orgasmo is when Trey got the call that South Park was getting picked up. So South Park then went into production for the show. And I was still basically producing Orgasmo. So basically the South Park, the show started, and I was still doing post-production for Orgasmo for some time, and then getting into film festivals and then Basketball started, which made things even crazier. And Basketball ended up coming out before Orgasmo even, because we had to do the film festival thing and find distribution for Orgasmo. And so it's kind of all happened at once over a 3-year period.
Man,
yeah.
Soya, you were around for some of the Orgasmo stuff, the music, right?
Oh no, I was there when Primus recorded some of the music up at the Dust Brothers place.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Of course. That wasn't the first time I met Matt and Trey, but that was the first time I met the Dust Brothers.
Yeah, and the Dust Brothers we met through our friend Farrell, that our crazy porn concierge. He had gone to college with the Dust Brothers.
Oh wow!
And so he introduced us to those guys, and that was incredible too.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, that was when Brain was in the band.
Yep,
brand new. And one of the things we did in that early stages of Brain in the band was I drove some gear down. Went to Silver Lake up to their house, and I loaded up a whole bass guitar, bunch of shit in the living room at the Dust Brothers place in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
And they played the porn disco stuff. It was like Primus plays disco. Background music. Like it wasn't Primus did a song, in the soundtrack. It was background music, but it was Primus. I mean, is it even credited?
I don't think it is actually.
I don't think it is. I think that it was them just throwing down with Matt and Trey because they were like, "Come on, man, do this," and they're like, "Fuck yeah, we'll do this." And those guys paid to have them come down there, and I went with them. It was hilarious. You've been there, the old house with them.
Oh, I spent a lot of time there. Yeah, no, it was a fun place to be for sure.
Totally, we had a great hang that week. We were there for 2 or 3 days. It's hilarious, man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the waka 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 kind of porn disco. They were trying to recreate it, and the lesson learned. We're doing it. It's hilarious. and we didn't know what Orgasmo was. We didn't know who. I mean, South Park was like just getting going, and it was so good. They were trying, like you say, it was post South Park, but it was actually something they'd already worked on before South Park. So they were trying to finish up what they were doing to get it out.
Yep,
it's fun to be a part of that when there was no money and it was all fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was no corporations involved.
Yeah, not as many.
Yeah, that creates its own set of expectations, and most of those are, I would imagine, a drag.
Oh, and there's a lot of idiots around that don't know what the fuck is going on, and they don't understand the art of what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets really shitty, Jay, as you know. When you work with Primus and Matt and Trey, it's all about trying to be who you are. All of a sudden, you make $1 bazillion and 10 million fucking people come in and want a piece of it and want a part of the production, And then there's people coming out of the woodwork going, "Oh, I'm here to bring the donuts. I'm here to bring the coffee. I'm here to do this." Get the fuck out of here. We're trying to make a fucking funny thing, dude. It's like, God damn it.
Well, you guys definitely made some funny things. Orgasmo was one of my favorites in college. It was just, it worked out for a college age guy to really think it was funny. Imagine that.
You're definitely the target market, Exactly. It's just like that's who it was definitely targeted to dudes in their 20s and beyond, and dudes who never grow out of their 20s like me, So, yeah.
We just watched Orgasmo on the Roger Waters crew bus the other night.
No way.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Totally.
That's awesome.
It's relevant, man. I mean, come on.
We did these screenings in Boulder, and I watched Apricot and Orgasmo. I just screened Cannibal. We didn't. Dean Bahar and I did a screening of Cannibal in LA in May, so that was enough for me. And because Cannibal is like, that's the movie I've seen thousands of times, and then if you add in all the times I've seen the stage play, it's just gets stupid. So so I was like, I'll skip that. But it was fun to see Orgasmo again because it had been a good clip since I'd seen it, and so it was like Trey did have some inklings to make it a musical. But since we'd had such a hard time selling Cannibal, we said, we're just going to insert Kung Fu for a musical. So
yeah.
It's
odd that like as overboard as you can go to try to catch people, the topics, like it's like Blazing Saddles, like went so fucking far over everybody's head, yet it is the biggest cult fucking ripper. And if you're anybody who's anybody, you can understand what a cult classic that is,
Mm-hmm.
And all the racist jokes are, tongue in cheek and whatever. You can't say the N word, of course, but it's so funny when they do. It's tasteful. How is it that Mel Brooks knew you could say the N word tastefully? Make it funny. I'm saying Orgasmo, was the same thing, and you really watch that movie. If you don't know what you're watching, it's offensive. But then if you really watch it, it's a cult classic. Like you really go, ha ha.
There's a lot of offensive jokes for sure. But one of the things I love about Orgasmo is that the hero, Joe Young, stays true to his Mormon values as a superhero. So like, even though, you're going to learn about DVDA in there, you're also going to see a wholesome superhero for the people come of age, know?
Yeah. And there's porn involved. We're sorry, peoples. There's a superhero that watches porn. Well, actually, he's in porn.
He doesn't watch it. He just is in it.
Just get over it.
Doesn't watch
superhero.
And I think it's that conceit that really helped build it to the status it has. And, it was one of those things, and I'm sure, Jason, you've heard them all, but for weeks on end, in my dorm hall there, if somebody asks, well, why are you doing that? The person would respond, I am Sancho. You know, it's just one of those things. It became part of the lexicon, you know?
Oh man, that's awesome. I'm stoked to hear people were busting Sancho jokes in college dorms. That definitely makes me.
I forgot about all of it. I got to tell you, man, we watched that on the bus. I'm going to say maybe 2 weeks ago or something. This tour is about 18 months long, it seems. It's only been 3 months. Fuck, we put it on one night, and I haven't seen it in a while, but man, it was awesome reintroducing myself to all the humor of that fucking movie, because I worked on it with Primus guys and seen it a bunch, and then it goes away for 10, 15 years and you see it again. It's like, Ron Jeremy's face caving in with the foot is so fucking hilarious.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
That really gets a big laugh still. That joke definitely holds up. And you know what? I think now it's even more poignant than ever.
Oh sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like
he's done.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, it's the kind of thing where you go, man, I can't believe I wasted so many loads jacking off to that dude. Now I wish he was dead. And that
can I get those loads
kick
back?
in the face was fucking for real. What a fucking douche. You know?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have a lot of Ron Jeremy stories, you know, but his demise is sad. It's not completely surprising, I have to say, but
I'm sure all that shit was going down the whole time. We just finally found out about it. To change course on that topic of him and his bad stuff, it's amazing the iconic characters you guys got in Orgasmo, like cameos.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that was the thing, is we wanted to get cameos. I mean,
he was not just a cameo, he was there, but there's so many other amazing, like if you watch that movie and you're as old as we are, 50, you know, you like go, you like, you see people through the movie going, and you guys just have them come in and out for no apparent reason, but they're there.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And me knowing Trey and Matt briefly enough, and they're part of the whole same vibe as Primus and all of us.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, there's lots of Easter eggs.
It's straight comedy, man, that people are coming in and out like that. It's awesome.
Yeah. We were having a lot of fun with cameos and all that kind of stuff. So
that's a great one.
About it.
I got it. I saw
it. I think Lloyd Kaufman's is my favorite cameo, all one. So
nice. If you don't mind, can we jump ahead to Electric Apricot? Because that is probably one that a lot of our listeners are familiar with. And it sounds like after you told us about your musical background or as a fan, it's kind of like coming full circle with the concept of Electric Apricot and the music within and the people in it.
100%. I mean, it was like a magical opportunity to make fun of everything I've held sacred, you know. So just straight up. I mean, you know, I'll never forget the day I got the call from Les with this idea, you know, where he'd actually just been vacationing at Trey's place in Hawaii. He came back off this fresh vacation. He had this awesome idea, a mockumentary about a jam band called Electric Apricot. He had the name already worked out when he called. I mean, I would just basically could not jump on the idea more quickly. And actually, the irony of it, so he called, I got a call. He called Trey, let Trey know about his idea. And while thanking him for staying on, at his place in Hawaii. And so hilariously, for South Park fans, there's a notorious jam band episode in South Park. And basically Les sort of spawned that idea with Trey, because basically, like, we were going into, you know, we were just basically working out the ideas and trying to figure out if Electric Apricot was even going to work. And then I get a call from Matt asking me, what's the shittiest jam band you know? Because I'm definitely the festival horror jam bander in the greater entourage here, of course. So that's why I get that call. And so anyway, I'm giving them development ideas on the South Park jam band episode, and then Les was calling me to do this movie, and it was just a fun little moment in time. So that's basically the spring of 2005, and so very quickly with the idea and the fire to get this done quickly and just kind of go for it. The first notion was, okay, Les is going to play Lapdog.
Yep.
We need a band. we knew that. So we basically were like, who are the funniest guys we know that play music, and three guys were, well, the first one was one of my best friends from growing up in Mill Valley, Jonathan Cordy.
Right.
He's a band leader for Soul Ska now, but an old school Bay Area Van Vinyl, accomplished musician, but also his dad's was a filmmaker, and so John had done a lot of acting over the years, and is also just a really funny person in general. So he was my vote to play the keyboard player, Herschel Brillstein. Right. And then Les basically kind of did the same thing and went to two of his oldest friends, Brian Kehoe and Adam, aka Bob C. Cock, Adam Gates. And so there you had the guitar player and the bass player, and then Les masquerading as the drummer, and then the band. And so we got together in the San Rafael rehearsal stage, or studio, and basically just, is there band chemistry? So there's like a couple first rehearsals. Obviously the good news was, yes, there was band chemistry. The guys got along and had some good jams. And then we got serious about it and started raising money. This is, I kind of consider Electric Apricot to be sort of Les Claypool's Cannibal the Musical, because there's a lot of kind of crossover things of just sort of the notion of kind of shooting in your backyard with friends on a real shoestring budget, and doing a lot of things sort of improvised. And again, just sort of plays into doing an ultra low budget movie, which is Electric Apricot. So the band could jam, they could work. And because it was a mockumentary and a fake band, Les was okay with doing sponsorships. So we raised money from General Hydroponics, from Rockstar Energy Drink.
That was the one, yeah.
And Lagunitas Beer. They each gave us some money, and that was like basically our first sort of seed money. And then we went after friends and family for small investments. Again, ultra low budget movie, but we were also just trying to shoot it that same summer, and so because Les obviously has a name and a track record, when he calls a festival and says, I want the opening slot for your festival for my new band, everybody says yes. So it was easy to get band bookings, and we set up a little mini tour, and then we went for it. And Les basically did an incredible job directing. He had this whole sort of story in his mind that we told through asking the band questions and getting answers and creating these scenes. And then each band member also got to come up with their own band name and backstory. Yeah. So everybody was sort of a writer and a contributor. So it's sort of like the Electric Apricot Ensemble sort of wrote the movie and the jokes, but Les had deep backstory and the guidance for the general story all kind of written.
Okay. So it was definitely a group effort. I haven't watched the film in a while, but I remember when they introduced Adam's character, and he's big on mysticism and that sort of thing. And Adam I know he loves reading about that stuff, and because it pops up in a lot of his material. So he was just able to riff on that so well. In hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, he's bringing all this prior knowledge and is playing this character, and that just sounds like him. It's hilarious. Yeah.
No, I mean, and that completely was him, 100% Adam. He wrote all those parts. I didn't know it. I had to look up the Necronomicon or whatever. He has a lot of deep references he's putting in there. So we're just playing to his strengths. Kehoe is very much bringing Kehoe to the part, if you know him at all.
That huge personality, yeah. Huge
personality, and a lot of the jokes and the one-offs, like his Peruvian pecker joke, that's like pure Kehoe. But Kehoe, the interesting part about Kehoe is that Tim can describe Kehoe's music better than I can, but Kehoe had to study the music of Jerry Garcia, who he did not know and was not necessarily a fan of. So he studied Jerry and Warren Haynes.
But he's smart enough and diligent enough to study it, understand it, and portray it. I think he did a great job.
Oh, he nailed it. And he plays that Jerry Warren style like incredibly and learned it. But we all know he'd rather be playing like power polka rock or something. I don't know how you describe his music, but it's
hillbilly polka rock.
There you go.
Hillbilly polka rock. Yeah. And so anyway, and if you've seen a Duo de Twang show, you know how funny he is, because he and Les are just up there bantering and cracking jokes. And
I did the whole tour, dude. I know all about it.
Yeah, so that's you go for the music, but you stay for the comedy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Because you had a mini tour run, so you could get the live footage, quote unquote, live footage of the band playing, which was actually live footage of the band playing, and then the scenes that were not taking place while they're playing live music, is that being shot while the tour's on, or is that before or after?
Yeah, we kind of, I mean, so it's a combination, it's like, so some of the stuff's on tour, like the scene with the tapers, for example.
Right.
We shot that while we were on tour in Los Angeles. So that was a scene we picked up in LA. The recording studio scene all happens at our friend Greg Halden's studio in the Pocket Studios up in Forestville.
Okay.
So we spent, several days at that location. So it was mostly shot on tour, I'd say, with the recording scenes. And then, if you hear Les talk about this movie, he liked to describe the production as building a house while your materials were on fire. That's how he described it. So we had a lot of things that could go wrong, that did go wrong. I mean, Les passed a kidney stone while we were on tour from LA to Santa Cruz. Our Santa Cruz show, there was like rolling blackouts, and like the power went out halfway through the show, and like we finished it like acoustic with like flashlights. The worst, then there was driving to Festaru, which was the Shakedown Festival, and it had like Galactic and Michael Franti, and it had a few good name artists on there, but it was a first year festival. I guess the promoter couldn't pay the deposit to the staging company on the day that the staging company was loading in. So literally the day before the festival, we get the call that it's canceled. And that was a big kick in the nuts, because it was sort of like that was the last thing we needed. And Adam was just starting a job at Pixar, right? Where I think he still works. Kehoe had tons of issues. Everybody had issues, so it was hard to reschedule. But we did. And we were actually, and Trey Parker was supposed to have a cameo, and we never got Trey's cameo because of that cancellation. And then the worst thing that happened to us on production was our director of photography. When we shot the scene at the studio, we'd all heard rumors and knew that their studio had this sort of weird track record of being kind of haunted. And apparently there'd been like a double murder there in like the early 70s or some shit. Long story short, after filming a weekend there and our director of photography staying there and not sleeping in a hotel, he kind of freaked out and didn't answer his phone for 3 days. And then when he did pick up, we found he said that he'd thrown all the film in the fire. And we were like, what? He had all the footage. And like at that point, we'd already done like a big tour. We were like more than halfway done. And if the film had all really been thrown in the fire, like that movie would not have gotten finished.
Yeah.
But then a day later, he kind of snapped out of it and just said like, sorry, I don't know what happened. I didn't throw the film in the fire and everything's okay. And he finished the movie. So,
that is weird.
We experienced some weirdness.
Wow.
But we overcame.
Wow. I remember, and Frankie, you might remember this too, in a Q&A or two, on the tours, Primus tours, somebody asked Les about the movie, and he said, yeah, that movie, I'm still paying for it. I'm not sure what he means by that.
Yeah, he said the words that he used were that it kicked his ass financially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, especially Les, because he's used to like earning lots of money when he goes out instead of like paying for things on a film that's underfunded and low budget. So yeah, no, he definitely got his ass handed to him there. But it was also in a time period where he was in between Primus, he was doing Frog Brigade.
Right.
It was like a period of time where that's exactly what he should have been doing, because it was exploring other things and just basically kind of sowing his oats and, just between drummers, really, I think is in the greater scheme of phases.
It wasn't just drummers. He was just trying to figure out what to do next, because Primus was null and void.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You need a spiritual recharge, to make Primus fun again. And Electric Apricot was one of those things. So yeah, it might have cost him a little bit. And I mean, and I'll tell you, like I just told you those production stories, but things would get worse for everything on Electric Apricot once we signed with National Lampoon. Okay. Cause that was like, we basically were victims of white collar crime. And we finished the movie. We hit the festival circuit. We're hitting some mid-level festivals. We're not getting calls from Sundance or the Toronto Film Festival, but we're hitting some festivals. We're getting some love. And the movie's getting out there, and it definitely, like, it's resonating with the audiences. So we're like, okay, we're feeling decent about it. Like, not like it's going to be a monster hit, but we do feel like, okay, we hit the cult classic level that we're aiming for. And so our friend Sam Macaroni had hooked us up with National Lampoon. They just built or at least they redid a building on Sunset Boulevard that looked real fancy. And we went in there and met with them. They're like, we're bringing National Lampoon back to its 70s glory. Mm-hmm. And that was like magic words to Les, because he grew up on National Lampoons and he's a British comedy guy. So he got super fired up. I got super fired up. It sounded great. Then it takes lawyers 3 to 6 months to make that deal. And the deal was super weird. A few red flags, but we took it anyway because they were promising a theatrical release. And that's
what were some of those red flags that you noticed?
Well, basically this fucking total dick named Tom in a big leather jacket was the big red flag. Like, and he wasn't part of these movies or part of these meetings earlier. Okay, I'm just outing him. His name's Tom Daniels. I do not recommend doing business with him if he's a former Lampoon guy. But basically, really long story short, their CEO got busted for stock fraud and an FBI sting. And so instead of bringing glory back to National Lampoons, they were trying to manipulate the stock, which they own more than 40% of and is, a publicly traded company. So they were signing movies on and they were giving theatrical releases, but the theatrical releases were like the thumb trick fake release there. If you can see a thumb trick there. It was bullshit. And they would so they released the movie and they put it out in like 10 theaters in like the suburbs of Atlanta. Yeah. And they basically were like, that's our theatrical. We hit 10 theaters, blockbuster. Here's what we did. Can you buy 2 copies of the DVD instead of 1? And that was their trick to sell more DVDs. But we were like, hey, we actually think we can book this theatrically. Les has a following. We think people are going to like this movie. And so Leanne Lajoie, one of Les's old managers, and I basically booked a theatrical tour under National Lampoon's name. We did all the work and booked the tour, and we got Les to do some Q&As in a few spots, and it worked out great. So we actually made our own theatrical happen despite their bullshit. And then it got worse because that stock fraud thing hit, and the CEO got arrested and he went to jail. And then the fill-in CEO, or the guy who was the CFO, he took over, and then he went to jail 6 months later, and the whole house of cards came down. And so basically all the money from our theatrical and all the money from our DVD release went into the ethers. Like, we got nothing after years of hard work, basically. This is like, welcome to the film industry. And so it was a huge kick in the nuts in multiple ways. The only thing that was at all great was the movie and the release and getting it, to connect with fans. But then everything else was a complete beating. Just like left, right, and center. So, but again, years later, it's still playing. There's fans that are still discovering it. We got to remaster it, and it's still out there, and we're still really proud of it. And this new version, I highly recommend people seeing it, especially if you've seen it a long time ago and you haven't. Mm-hmm. It looks better now. It plays better, and it still holds up, however many years later. I don't know what our anniversary is now, but well, it was filmed in 2005. We hit the festivals in 2008. So
2008.
2008, I guess, would be its original release date. So.
Okay. So going on 15 years.
15th anniversary.
Here we go.
Do it. We've tried to get the band back together multiple times, and we'll try again maybe. But the problem is that Les plays the drummer, and drumming is the most exhausting position in any band. And so so there's been New Year's Eve where I've been Les has Duo de Twang playing. He's got Sausage, and then he's got Primus. Yeah. Why can't we get Apricot in there? Well, it's because he doesn't want to play the drums and tire himself out before he's got to do all these other sets. So that I think that's what's holding us back on the reunion tour.
So, but now the rights then, have they reverted from National
yeah.
Lampoon after all that? So you can do something with it if you want.
So we got the rights back.
Yeah.
We got the rights back from an entertainment attorney who then went and jumped off a building years after getting the rights back for us. So that's kind of a weird part of the thing. Like there's
This
still
movie
weirdness
snake bit
even after that, but we got the rights back. So yeah, so now all the rights are owned by the original filmmakers, and now it's streaming. And we actually do see a small trickle of money. So someday Les will get paid back, and maybe the investors. Who knows?
Yeah,
could happen.
Nice.
But it's really like it was a hard thing to come back from, because like, you know, films, you make your initial money from not really the theatrical release, but really the DVD release was the thing that we were counting on at the time. And so to have that completely wiped out was as big a kick in the nuts. That was actually like poking needles in your eyes. Yeah. That, you know, it just happened with National Lampoon, not Troma. So
and that's what you guys have been banking on.
Yeah, and I don't even know what the state of National Lampoon is now either. Like, I mean, those guys really wrecked it. It's still such a powerful brand that maybe someone will resurrect it someday. But I mean, it's a huge bummer, that aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Making the movie and getting to make fun of everything it held sacred was priceless.
That's a nice way to put a bow on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly proud of the movie and glad we got to do it, you know, despite all the beatings, you know.
I think I saw it on Amazon Prime not long ago, so I should probably rewatch it, because we'll eventually...
Amazon Prime, and yeah, they should have the new version up now. Actually, I need to check that. I should have checked it for this podcast, but...
Check it too.
Kehoe's fucking bare ass is in it. That's a heavy scene. That's my favorite scene in the whole movie.
I'm going to guess the analytics on that film that Kehoe's butt is
quits the band and they find him in the bushes on LSD.
It's the most paused moment in the movie. Has to be, right?
There's Kehoe's ass.
Easter egg for his friends. Well,
yeah, you gotta have. I mean, I think one of the signatures in all my films is that you always get to see a man's bare ass.
That's right. Yes.
In Cannibal, you get to see my bare ass. Uh-huh. In Orgasmo, you get to see a lot of my close friend Andy Kemmler's bare ass.
Man, there's a lot of bare ass in Orgasmo.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. In Orgasmo, we discovered a very important thing, and this is, you know, good advice for anybody doing comedy. And then we discovered that boobs are not funny. And basically anytime that boobs come on the screen, like every guy gets like a little bit serious. It's like a moment. And then, you know, they're just like, oh, fuck, there's boobs, you know. But conversely, men's asses are really funny. So we decided if you think you're going to see boobs and you see a guy's ass, that is fucking funny.
Oh, it's a perfect mislead. Yeah, absolutely.
It is. Hilarious. It really is funny. And as much of a fuck over it is to myself, you know, having
counteracting the visual that's genius, dude.
Yeah.
It just gets you.
On the Simpsons DVD commentaries from the first 10 seasons, you know, the good ones that I've got, they always called that a screw the audience joke. And so I thought, yeah, this is a screw the audience joke. And exactly. I'm in on it. It's hilarious. It's so funny.
It is a screw the audience joke. That's well said.
If we can jump ahead a few years, although unless I missed something, your work with Primus came back around with the Wonka tour, or is there anything before that I'm missing?
Yeah, well, I mean, leading up to Apricot, I got to I did some fill-ins on tours, but I think that the coolest job I got to do was art directing New Year's Eve gigs.
Oh, really? Oh, tell us about some of those.
There's the first one was probably the best story to retell, and that was so it's Les and the Frog Brigade playing at the Fillmore for New Year's Eve. I want to say like 2002 or 3, something around there, maybe 4. I don't know. I'm not sure of the year, but I can tell you it was the Quest for Fire was the theme.
Okay.
And the song at midnight was George of the Jungle. I think Les wanted to play that for his son, who was into George of the Jungle at the time. So anyway, it was a caveman.
And they were dressed accordingly. I've seen the photos.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I dressed them, and I gotta say, like, just getting to know Les better at that point in time, and like I knew I had to make his piece stand out a little extra from the band's, being the band leader. So but anyway, I put him into this, like, it was like this like furry cod piece basically, and he had this big wolf kind of mask thing that was like the hero piece, but it was this big furry cod piece, and I was not sure how that was going to go over. But he fucking loved it. He totally ran with that, and I was like, okay, all right, this is gonna work out. So anyway, yeah, Quest for Fire caveman theme, and then I think I did 3 or 4 of those, something like that, where I got the call for New Year's, and then my card ran out. There's kind of like and I stepped in for somebody else. Like, Les really is good at keeping like a colorful family of characters that he rotates around into different parts. So I kind of like rotated in. I forget the guy's name who I kind of feel like I replaced. And then I had a 3 or 4 year run, and then I got tapped out, and then so it's just like a family of friends putting this show on. So it was really fun to do those gigs. Then I got to fill in for Agent O, who does all the visuals, and he was the editor for Electric Apricot. Right. But he does the video mix every night, and that was my first time touring with the band. And the very first night, I thought I was getting pranked. I thought it was like on a fucking prank show, because basically, like, I had to take these really heavy video projectors up a huge ladder and then project them onto the astronauts' faces, where we got Flounce and Fred's face that
That's
we're
right.
putting onto those fucking things, and like to try to focus an old school projector like at 4 PM in the middle of daylight, like on a 25-foot ladder, was just insane. Like, I was like, I thought I was getting pranked. I was ready to cry for a minute, but somehow I pulled it together, got the Flouncens's face on there. And so, I filled in his video mixer, and that was a really fun job, except I don't mix like Agent O, who knows like every beat, and he's more like analytical, maybe he's taken less LSD than I have, so he's like cutting on the beat. He knows everything. And I'm more just letting out the weird reverb and psychedelic shit. So I would definitely get called in after shows, and it was like going to the principal's office when you have to talk to Les about the visuals and how they should be done. And there's a funny debate. That would have been a good fly on the wall moments of hearing that critique. But those were my first gigs with the band, and then I got the dream job of getting to be Wonka Tech on Primus and the Chocolate Factory, and
having to deal with Soya every day.
It was awesome. I mean, again, we had our hardships. Every tour has their hardships. It's work. You're sweating balls doing that shit. But that was a magical job, because unlike most tour jobs, part of our job involved leaving the venue and hitting, all the most touristy spots at any town. So, it's like the typical tour dog, thing is, I went to 30 cities and saw maybe 3 of them, because, you got out on your days off, but maybe not the other days. Right. But Soya and we hit every city, we hit every mark. We had crunchy microbrews in every town.
It became part of the shoot was we go to a bar.
Yeah, we'd hit a bar, we'd hit the venues, we hit like the most iconic spots, with the Oompa Loompa, often getting small crowds of tourists, wanting little photo ops with us. And so it's just like we had a 1-hour adventure every day in each city we went to, and that was super fun.
It was incredibly fun.
Yeah, and then you'd put the video up during the encore every night. And after everyone had seen the Oompa Loompas doing their dance, a couple times throughout the show, and that always got a nice applause, and was just super fun. So
that sounds pretty rewarding, and you get to hang out with Tim Soya and drink some beer.
Right? I mean, good times. Good times. It was just like,
I mean, Jay, you have to know, like, it was known to me that you were the video guy. above Agent O, even though Agent O thought you were just some dude that was out there on tour. How I didn't know any connection with the apricot thing with you and O, you know?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
So when we would go out there and fucking terrorize and do our thing and do it one more time, take it from this angle, get the Oompa bouncing this way, do your arms higher this way. Like we really tried to make that shit great, you know?
Yeah. No, and I mean, props to you, because that's hard work getting into that suit every day, and like it's the middle of the summer, you know, and
Dude, that wasn't the only thing I had to do that day.
Right. And it's like a side part, it's a side job.
It was a side job of 4 jobs I had to do that day.
It's a side job that involved tour sites and beer.
And that's why the bar came involved. I'm like, one of the runners was like, dude, there's a bar that I know all the Primus fans are hanging out and having beer. Dude, go there.
Yeah.
We're going there with the costume on. We're going to fucking walk in with the Oompa. And all of a sudden that became like, oh, yeah. Here's how we get a beer. Yeah. And like you turn the receipt into Mills at the end of the day. At the production manager, you go, dude, this bar tab's on Primus. He go, yep. All good.
Yes.
I understand the effort you guys are doing this. Like,
talent riders are important, you know, on rock tours.
Funniest thing was we didn't pay for many of those beers because every single Primus fan in those bars we went into would want to buy us beers. You know? So there was never really, we went back with some bar tab.
There was a positive beer ecosystem happening for us.
Good Lord, dude. A couple of those, man. Edna's Box. Remember that one? Oh, my God.
Oh, wait. Was that the one in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Yeah, that place is incredible.
And it used to be where the bartender went up on top of the bar and danced. It was called Edna's Box or something.
Oh,
and we went in there in the afternoon. They had just opened, and the only 4 people in there were Primus fans. Yeah, and they were fucking freaking out. And they gave us T-shirts. I still wear that T-shirt to this day.
No way. That's awesome.
Edna's T-shirt, yeah. I'm bummed. It's dying. It's one of those shirts that's like the collar's starting to fall apart, you know, because I wash it and wear it and wash it and wear it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You gotta preserve it now.
Yeah.
I think the crowning moment, at least from Soya's stories about that tour, was down there on Hollywood Boulevard. The Angry Transformer was that's quite a harrowing tale.
That was you, right, Jay? On that one?
Oh man, shit's real down there, you know.
But I'm saying, was that the one you were there, or Bryce was there? It was you?
I think I think it was Bryce was there for that one. It wasn't me. But I mean, I remember all that, and I mean, I live in LA, so I've been down there. Like those guys do get in fights. It's like it's like can be super gnarly and aggro.
Wow.
Well, were you there at the Christmas Story house where the dude on the bike almost fist fight me?
No, I think I missed that one too.
You're so lucky or unlucky, I guess. I don't know which.
I think you're Burning Man grateful that Energy wasn't around. And the fist fight came around when Bryce was there.
Maybe so, yeah.
No, you were there in Cleveland. Come on, man.
No, in Cleveland I was there. Definitely. I was definitely there in Cleveland. I can't remember, but we had this friend of ours, Bryce, filling in for me on a few dates because I can't remember what my problem was with my overlap now.
All that shit went down with me every single day. It was like not just like that's all I had to do all day. That was like just a facet.
Yeah.
Every fucking single day was setting up 2 drum sets and going doing that, coming back.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, eat dinner. Gig. Fuck. Drink a beer. Oh my God. All of a sudden I'm on the bus. No. Like, fuck.
Days would go fast.
What the fuck just happened, you know?
Definitely like that. It was fast moving. There was no time to slow down at all.
Yeah.
It was awesome to work with you. Like with my input, we worked together to make those little funny shoots happen. You know, like I understood your talent, you know?
Thank you. Yeah, no, likewise. Likewise again, extra mile in the Oompa Loompa suit, man. Mass respect.
Some fun moments.
You know, in the European tour, I can't remember why, but I got tapped to go on stage and be an Oompa Loompa on a couple of nights. I think like in like Berlin or some shit.
Oh, really?
Oh man.
Oh, maybe there was me and you had to come do it on the other.
I can't remember why, but I had to fill in, and I sucked at it so bad. Like going on stage, like I was the worst Oompa Loompa dancer. Like you and who was our video techs?
It was Peter.
Peter, yeah, Peter, awesome dude. He fucking crushed it. And yeah, I was definitely the third string Oompa Loompa on that tour.
Dude, but the best one was, remember we were in Germany at, I gotta say Munich or Berlin, or I can't remember.
Yeah.
Where. And me and you were out doing the Oompa shoot, and we were, you walk down the street, there's not bar, but like place. And the beer they were serving was your family name.
Yeah, Pure beer. Yeah.
Yes.
From a German beer family.
I'm gonna say that was
Hocker Pure.
Hamburg?
Yeah, Hamburg. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they had the name. Yeah, we took a photo out there.
And we went in there to that place and had a beer.
I totally remember that. That was awesome.
With the costume, and we're like, they just opened. It was like 2:00 in the afternoon. They're like, hey, they're all hungover. We just opened up. Like, motherfuckers, get us a beer. This guy's name is this. We're like, okay, can you guys please drink your beer and get out of here so we can get this place cleaned up from last night? Do you remember that?
No, I think that was like a profile picture for like a couple of years.
Amazing. That might have been the instigator of like, every day we're going to a bar. We do these fucking stupid shoots. We're getting a fucking beer.
It happened early. I don't know what city it happened in, but that happened early in the.
That was Hamburg. I'm pretty fucking damn sure that was Hamburg.
We got to go check our historical logs of Chocolate Factory journals. Daily Journal, Chocolate Factory, Day 2.
Drank
soya.
There's no. Every one of my journals
normal today.
No entry. No entry. I'm too drunk. I can't write. No entry.
Yeah, just scrawled in there. No. Oh, that's great. Well, Jason, thanks a lot for stopping by and sharing these stories with us, man. It's so cool to get this this background, And we just had the South Park 25th anniversary, and of course, Primus played a big part in that. Those shows were awesome. I got to go to the August 10th one. I assume you were there both nights having a grand old time.
I was there both nights, and they were mind-blowing shows. I'm glad I got to go both nights, because the second night was super social, and both nights were a little bit different too, just musically. But no, it was incredible. I mean, Ween, Primus, Matt and Trey together after 25 years, culminating at Red Rocks, was a truly magical night. The music was incredible.
Yeah.
The vibe was over the top, and it was just it was just a magical time at Red Rocks. I think it beat out Grateful Dead 1987 at Red Rocks, actually, as my best show at Red Rocks. No, I know it did. and Red Rocks is a special place for me because I'd actually had a job selling iced cappuccino and iced tea there during college. That was like another college job before doing tours. So I've seen tons of shows there, and that was definitely one of the best, if not the best one I'd ever seen.
Wow. And
my first was Primus 95 Punch Bowl tour.
I was there for that. Yeah, I've seen a few Primus shows there, and I was at that one. I think he was wearing like the red and white pinstripe thing and the round hat, right?
The straw hat, probably.
The straw hat.
Yep.
And then that show blew my mind. I was definitely there and just ripping that show up. That was incredible.
That's my first time there, was that show.
Yeah. No, it was a good one.
Oh,
but and the last time, and we actually ended with that. We ended the Chocolate Factory show there. That was the last show of the Chocolate Factory tour. And I remember it was like a rainy, windy night.
No, that was not the last show. That was the last show of a leg.
Oh, the first leg.
Maybe a leg. I thought it was a final one.
The very last final one was in LA at the
Orpheum.
The Orpheum. We did 2 nights at the Orpheum. Was the last 2 shows.
Okay. All right. You may be right.
Man, you were on so much LSD.
No, I was not on any LSD. No. I was there with like my kids that night. I was definitely
You believed it. That's the last show ever of Primus was that night.
No, I thought, well, anyway, the last night of Red Rocks I remember only because the wind was blowing sideways and I was like hanging on to these giant mushrooms for dear life while they were like, blowing in the wind. So that's my final memory of that tour.
I think that'll mess anybody's mind up.
That's good acid with Mother Nature, man.
Take it.
Well, thanks again, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. This has been fun. It's been fun to talk about all this stuff and see my boy Soya. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Hopefully maybe New Year's.
Dude, I'll be in LA tomorrow. I'm in LA right now. So
I know. I'm going to miss you. So I'm seeing you now. This is the closest
Even if you came to the Roger Waters show, you wouldn't see me unless you saw me for 2 seconds in your screen.
Right. No, I can imagine.